Hello and welcome to Bigfoot and Company. This is Dr. John, and we got a blockbuster of a show tonight, today, whatever time you're listening. So first of all, I want to say hello to my buddy and co-host Matthew Delph. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm cold. I'm always cold in Myrtle Beach until it gets to be June. I live in the tropics. That's what I think. But it's all good. And so what have you been up to? Have you been out exploring for Bigfoot, or what you been up to?
Actually, I was filming for my little short documentary about my encounter there this past weekend. So.
Oh, great. Great. Well,
I'm
glad Yeah, when will we be able to see that?
Probably about mid-April.
Okay, great. Great. That's not that far away. And
No.
So anyway, we're glad to have you here, and glad you're doing that documentary. And I'm working on lots of cool things. I can tell everybody that we are broadcasting this on Wednesday, the 27th of March, and on Friday the 29th of March, I will be in Rabun County, Georgia, at the Rabun County Public Library, leading off Library After Dark. Myself and Marshall Masters, the Planet X guru, and William Rodriguez, who's a local guy that puts on festivals over there in Clayton, Georgia, and Rabun County. We're all going to be there trying to promote the Georgia Bigfoot Conference, and that thing is getting sold out. So if you want tickets, I don't think we have but 25 tickets left. I'm surprised at how well received it's going to be, and I can go ahead and tell you, we're going to be doing another one in the fall, the weekend of September the 21st in Clayton, Georgia, at the Rabun County Civic Center, because people do love Bigfoot up there in northeast Georgia, and I think it's a beautiful place. So I hope everybody, if you can't join us this spring here on the 27th of April, then come back and join us September the 21st, Rabun County Civic Center, Clayton, Georgia, for the fall Georgia Bigfoot Conference. So that's what we got going on, doing a lot of great things. Now today, let me set the scene for what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Charleston conspiracy. And this is a Bigfoot story. It's a true story. It happened about 6 weeks ago, I think. And I have a buddy who is a member of the news media in Charleston. We are going to call him Will because he needs to remain anonymous. I don't want him to lose his job over discussing this little bit of conspiracy, but it really happened. And I love Charleston. I think it's a great town. And so, for a lack of a better way to address my buddy, Will, not your real name, but Will, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. John. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you here and discuss some of this hoodoo voodoo guru that was going on down in Charleston. Here's how it all started. I was here at the house working, and I got a text message from you on Facebook. It said, Bigfoot has been sighted near Somerville. This is all you. That meant I was to leap into action, and I did, so I gave you a call. Now, when I called you, what did you tell me? See if you can remember the conversation. I know you pretty much know what you said, but tell everybody what you said when I called you up.
Well, so what we got was there were several people in Berkeley County in Charleston that started seeing this giant ape-sized man running through the woods, and they kept calling it, they said it was a Bigfoot sighting. They kept calling the police department, and the police department said that they sent people out, and nothing could be found. They didn't know, they didn't trust the people that was said, but just hearing these people's stories, with the media, talking with the media and everything, it sounded like they were right there. If you would have listened to them, you thought that Bigfoot was standing right at their door and that they knew him and could have a full conversation with them. It was as real as anything. And as me being in the media, I believe every single word that they said, and maybe it's just a cover up and everything, and you see a lot of that this time and age.
Yes, you do. And let me ask you this: the location was very near Interstate 26, going north toward Columbia, and I think it was right around the Somerville area, correct?
Yes, it was around Somerville and the Jedburgh area, which is right outside of Somerville. It's like in between, Jedburgh is in between Somerville and Pinopolis and Holly Hill. So it's all right in that area, right on 26, right the college right there, Charleston Southern, and you just hit that long stretch, which is a lot of woods because you've traveled up and down 26 and you've seen all the woods and everything that you see. And so it'd be one thing if it was just one sighting, one person saying something, but if I remember correctly, the police department in Somerville and Berkeley and Dorchester County got at least 7 to 15 calls that day. And even going back, knowing that I was coming to talk to you today, I did some more research on it, and it was between 7 to 15. And from what I've heard and was told, 2 to 3 police officers responded to it, but they say nothing was found.
All right.
That's a big quotations, and they say.
They say.
No.
Nothing was found.
Now,
Matt, what do you think about that?
Is that area around like a river or stream anywhere close nearby that area? And were all these call-ins, were they different people or the same people?
They were different people.
Okay.
All around Somerville and Jedburgh have a lot of rivers and lakes near it and everything. A lot of man-made, but there's a lot of water and a lot of trees around that area.
Now, were the sightings, like the call-ins, do you know if they were like neighbors or if they were just, kind of random around that area? Or
they were random around the area. They were probably, if I got all the information correctly, all the phone calls were about in a 15 to 20 mile radius, and this wasn't just like back to back to back. It was calls throughout the day.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
But
Sounds
it wasn't
like
a heavy residential area. It was more off to back away from the interstate and everything. It wasn't heavy residential. So it wasn't like a lot of people were around or anything like that, if it wasn't around construction or anything.
So we had a phone call several phone calls during the same day, but yet they were like 15 miles apart possibly?
Yeah, about 15 miles apart, and they were like throughout the day. So it wasn't like every 5 minutes there was a phone call. It was like, I believe the first phone call started about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and the last one they got was about 11 o'clock at night that same day.
So plenty of time for it to move around, and if there was more than one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's pretty interesting. And did anybody try to report it, put it in the paper, or?
From what, so everyone got the same information, all news outlets, paper outlets, and everything like that. So far as I know, no one reported it at all. There was a little blurb on a few local news television websites, but it wasn't a top story. It was just someone calling in saying that, oh, I saw this, and then it just probably maybe was a paragraph, if that.
Do you think that they were just too scared for ridicule to report it on the paper, or do you think somebody told them not to?
From being in the media, I don't know that for sure. I know that we were told by our higher up.
So it was definitely told not to be added in there.
It was, if I remember correctly, it was not newsworthy.
Exactly.
No, not at all exactly, Matt. I think it was totally newsworthy. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And the things they report and the things that they don't report. So,
well, just
now,
like
Matt,
the phrase I learned is, if it bleeds, it leads, and to them that didn't bleed too much.
gotcha. Well, now, Matt, you've had some experience with conspiracy theories in the Bigfoot world. Why don't you fill us in that one famous conspiracy theory story about the body of Bigfoot? I think that's a story a lot of folks don't really know, and you know a lot about that story. You know the one I'm talking about?
You're talking about the hoax that was put out there with the Rick Dyer hoax?
The not necessarily a hoax? Yes.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing with that one. It's hard to tell whether that one was hoaxed or if, because the story keeps changing, and he'll come out and say it was a hoax, and then he'll say that the government come in and told him shut up, and they took the body and all that stuff, and then he's been told that the thing about that is, though, what caught my attention on that whole story was, if it was a hoax, okay, he supposedly sold the body for $50,000, and the guy that bought the body didn't get his money.
We're talking about the supposed body of a Bigfoot.
Yes.
Right.
And
okay.
The body, they said it was a fake, so he had to go out and tell everybody, and he claims that he had to tell everybody it was a hoax because the government made him. But the thing, and the community, Bigfoot community, know him as a hoaxer. But the thing that caught my attention was, if he actually did sell that body for $50,000, and Tom Biscardi that bought it didn't get the body and was out $50,000 like he said, then we got to question, okay, $50,000 worth of, that's some jail time, which he didn't serve. So either he's telling the truth about the government, or Tom Biscardi was in on it with him. So that one there is still pretty tricky. Now he's come out again and saying in, I believe it's September 9th, this one that he's killed, he's going to release the body, that they've been studying it, and they've paid him to keep his mouth shut. In September of this year, he's going to actually get to show the body, that they said that they are going to allow him to show the body. Whether we'll find out for sure then if he's a hoaxing or not. But the one big story that with the government cover-up that I was personally involved and investigated was in Campbell County, Tennessee. Back in 2003, they had a multiple, they called it the skunk ape sightings. And the reason that they called it the skunk ape was because there was a picture of a Florida Bigfoot that they called the skunk ape, and it was shown around to the people, and the witnesses said that that's what they'd seen. And, well, it was all over the news. It was at the end of October, 1st November 2003. It was all over the news. The people went in there and they were saying, okay, that, you know, they had them all on TV and interviews, and people were telling their stories. And then all of a sudden, this man showed up there, and he was showing the picture around, and they said it was that skunk ape. And they said it looked identical to the picture that he was showing. And then the whole news media shut down. You didn't hear anything else about it. It just went complete silent. Nothing going on. And so I did nosing around there, and some people tell me to talk to this woman. And I talked to her, and she claims that the sheriff of that town there in Jacksboro, in La Follette, Tennessee, had showed up at her door because she had reported sightings and said it was mutilating some of her animals. they told her to keep her animals inside, that they was going to kill it. She said it was the sheriff and some people that looked like a SWAT team. And she said that she heard gunshots and they seen something black in the back fields fall. And the people that she's claimed that a helicopter had took it out, the people in that area that lived in that area, I had a few of them that worked for me, and they were talking about how there were black helicopters flying around the town and so on. But it was all shut down. You didn't hear nothing else about it. Nothing else was reported. And you'd ask about it, and they would never tell me nothing. They just shut it straight down completely. So that's one of them that I've definitely known that they shut down instantly.
So Will, getting back to the Charleston conspiracy, which is, I guess, what we'll call it, you say that some information went out to the news stations and people elected not to report it. That's basically what happened, isn't it?
Yes, it went to print, and it also went to like every news outlet out there, from radio to television to print, and no one decided to even report on it because I guess they think that it wasn't real, that it was a hoax. It was just somebody trying to make something up. But then as the day went on, instead of it being 1 to 2 reports, like I was saying before, it was multiple reports. And then by that time, everyone pretty much, I guess, figured they dropped the ball on it without actually having physical proof of it.
Okay. Well, it's a shame because that would have been interesting. To my knowledge, I have not heard of a Bigfoot sighting in the Charleston area. Now, I know that you live there. I don't know if you're a native there or whatever, but have you ever heard of a Bigfoot sighting down there, Will?
Well, no, I haven't. Not, I am from Charleston and the surrounding areas. I've never heard of one, so that's why when I came across our scanners and everything, I jumped to action because I was like, I never heard this before. So, I didn't know how to take it, and just like I said before, it was just one report, and then, like I said, the more to come came in, and I knew that you were the perfect person to know about this, so I reached out to you to tell you about it,
yeah.
And it got me more interested because, like I said, I never knew a sighting could even happen here. I always thought that the sightings were like in California or Arizona or something like that. Never thought that they would be here in this low in the South.
Well, I can tell you that the more I work on the Lizard Man Festival and putting that together in and around Columbia, South Carolina, I hear more and more Bigfoot stories. I really do. I was surprised. So apparently there have been a lot of sightings. They just have never really been reported. Now, Matt, you're up there in the Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky area, and people report these sightings all the time, don't they?
Yeah, actually had one not too far from the house reported. It was last Tuesday is when they reported one crossing the road. And that area I got looking into, and it's loaded down with sightings in that area. And actually, Thomas Markham that we had on the show a couple weeks ago, he went and investigated it, and he found some partial tracks that it was hard to get because it rained since the sighting. The sighting was last Tuesday, and that's probably about 30 minutes from my house. So that area is definitely covered up with them. Yeah, I always thought I was like him. I always didn't even think about Bigfoot or anything until I had my encounter. I always thought if it did exist, it was out in the Pacific West. But they're always
Gotcha.
There's probably more sightings around this area now up through this East Coast, just about as much as what's out in the Pacific West out there in the Pacific Northwest.
Right. That used to be the only place
out.
that you heard sightings, but now, I mean, we hear about them all the time. I mean, I'm hearing about them, in Columbia, South Carolina. Obviously, we have one in Charleston, South Carolina. Tons of them in Tennessee, Georgia. Everybody has seen Bigfoot. When I'm over there in Clayton, Georgia, working on the Georgia Bigfoot Conference, everyone's got a Bigfoot story, it seems like, and it's very interesting, and they're very accepting and excited about having our conference over there. So I think it's a good location. I was just surprised at how many folks have had experiences. It seems like about 5 to 10% of the folks that I talk to have a Bigfoot story, and that's a lot. That's a whole lot. I guess, Will, I've got another question. You said that you don't think there have been many Bigfoot sightings in the Charleston area, but you are in the world capital of the paranormal and ghosts, aren't you?
I am. It's like you can't go anywhere in the holy city without hearing of ghost stories and, people being haunted. My grandmother said that her house was haunted as well. We have a restaurant here in downtown Charleston where the owner still haunts it. If you walk in at a certain time, you can see her at the top of the stairs greeting you. Many pirates are walking the streets of Charleston in the night. You can still hear, some people have said they can hear the songs still going on. I guess that's the reason why they call it the Holy City, is because of all the history that we have and all the paranormal. And I love it. I love every minute of it. All of my life here, I've always done ghost tours and heard other people's stories, and, I love it. And I believe it. Some people don't. I believe in it all.
Yep. What about the one thing that I haven't heard too much about are UFO sightings there in the Holy City?
I haven't heard too many of them here. I've heard about some near the upstate and everything. I've heard some there, but in Charleston, I haven't heard too many of them. Not saying that it never hasn't happened. Been plenty of nights we've looked up at the stars and seen, what people are calling falling stars, or seeing objects in the air. I haven't heard too many stories of them, but being in a media realm and a media company, working with radio, TV, and newspaper at print, you hear every stories every now and then. People being visited by different places. Like I've heard some stories from Andrews, South Carolina, which is halfway between me and you right now. I have family out there, and they've told me some stories. They've seen stuff in the sky and everything, but no one's told me about anyone visiting them yet.
Okay. Well, it was really interesting. I guess I'm in touch with a lot of folks when it comes to putting on things like the Lizard Man Festival and the Georgia Bigfoot Conference and everything. And what happened today, it was very interesting. I got an email from a gentleman that said, I would like to bring some telescopes out to the Lizard Man Festival and set them up, and let's do some nighttime viewing. And I thought that was kind of a great idea. And in fact, I asked him, I said, give me a phone number and let's talk about it. So, maybe as we put together the Lizard Man Festival, and as we put together the Revenge of the Geek up in Somerville, which is going to be April the 13th, maybe we can get some telescopes out there and do some viewing and see what's going on. Now, I can tell you, and Matt, I'm going to ask you about UFOs here in just a minute up in your area, but I do want to get this out that Myrtle Beach seems to be the world capital of South Carolina for UFOs. My business is on the boardwalk, and we stand there at night, 11, 12 o'clock at night. We're working. There's still crowds there, and you see these red and orange lights out there over the ocean, moving at 90-degree angles and everything. And I'll always get a group of people together and show them. They say, well, what's that? Is that an airplane? I say, no, because Myrtle Beach International Airport will not allow planes to take off or come in from the Atlantic Ocean. You have to come in north, south, or west. And so we see UFOs or strange lights in the sky all the time. And so Myrtle Beach has got a bit of a reputation. In fact, Sherman Carmichael has a book, UFOs over South Carolina. He's an author from Johnsonville, South Carolina. It's a nice book. And he talks about the sheer number of sightings in Myrtle Beach and Pawleys Island, especially Pawleys Island. That's where I used to live, and it was amazing. You could just sit out on the porch and watch these lights do acrobatics. I mean, what in the heck is going on? And I don't think they're special government vehicles out there in the air. I think, they're certainly unidentified. So it's just very interesting. We got, I guess, seems to be there are three categories of anomalous behavior. There's Bigfoot and cryptids. There's UFOs and there's ghosts. And we've kind of talked about a couple of them. Now, Matt, what about lights in the sky and UFOs up where you are?
Well, there's more. I haven't heard of anything really like right here. I've had a couple reports, like right up where I researched some, up in Norton, Virginia area, up there on the mountain. They reported lights up there. But I don't get a lot of UFO reports. I kind of leave that to Angelina and them. But if I do hear something, I just kind of push it off on one of them, because for me with the UFO thing, it's hard to determine, what is what. Don't know if the government's testing something or, it could be some new aircraft that they're testing or, whatever. We'll never really get a good answer. Now, if there's some kind of activity along with it, then that's a different story. But just deciding. Now, I've had one report that this huge, it was probably the length of a football field, was over the trees, and this was probably about 40 minutes away from me, and said that it just sit there and it moved real slow and made a humming noise. And then once it cleared the trees, it was gone, and there was no reports or anything on it. But the witness was positive of what he seen. So, what it was.
What it was, we'll never know. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Well, Will, if you get any additional information about what we'll call the Charleston conspiracy sighting, please let us know. I mean, I think it's interesting. And do you have any of that information that I could get a hold of, where it talked about the timing of the phone calls and everything, or is that something that is only for the press?
That is something that was just released to the press and everything. But let me see if I can find something on the outside to get in. I have some friends in the police department and everything. Let me see if I can find some more information for you and everything, and I'll gladly pass that along to you.
Well, that'd be great, because I'd like to find out more about this. It's very interesting. You're talking about a 15 to 20 mile area. I mean, if it's one person or whatever, that's a lot of ground to cover. It really is. If it's more than one, well, that becomes problematic. And last week we had Robin McCrae on, and she was talking about the spiritual nature of Bigfoot and portals, and the fact that you have multiple sightings over such a wide area would Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would tend to lead us to thinking about something coming through portals, being seen, and going back. Am I correct? Or
yeah, definitely.
I guess I'm speculating right now, but I mean, have you ever heard of a variety of sightings over a 24-hour period like that? I don't think I have.
I have, but they were closer together within the area. Kind of got me curious if that area there, because I know that I had a report of them tracking one and they said it went for 39 miles in no time. It could be something drawing these things out during that time frame. Kind of got me curious. And, of course, where there's one, there's got to be more probably. Kind of got me wondering if, if something has drawn them out towards the people out of the woods during that time, if something was going on just within that area. I wonder if was there any fires or anything like that reported, or
no, not around that area.
It's definitely got me curious why all of a sudden they had come out, or maybe they were on the move for something, for some reason. Very interesting.
The only thing that I remember about the day is it was chilly. Is that what you remember, Will? It was just chilly. That's all I remember. It was
that's all I
early February.
About that day, because it was early February. It was pretty chilly that day. There weren't any fires really going on around that time, and it was just like you said, Dr. John. It was pretty chilly. So, yeah, I guess that's what brought them out. Just migrating and going all different ways. But yeah, it was cold because so far this year, Charleston's been as cold as it's ever been, minus snow. And in fact, it's still cold today when it should be warmed up.
Today. It is. It's cold. I was just out on the boardwalk around 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it was cold. I had my jacket. I had my hunting jacket on. I couldn't stand it. It was freezing. And I think it's interesting. Now, Matt, have you heard, are there more sightings in the spring and fall or in the summer, or do we really know about that?
A lot of it, I think, is in the spring. The fall with the hunters that are be in the woods, a lot of summertime where people camp and stuff. A lot more towards the spring, summer, and fall. But people are more active in the woods during that time because of hunting season, summertime for camping, springtime for like mushroom hunting and stuff like that. So a lot of sightings usually in between, the spring, summer, and fall. But there are sightings though during the winter time. Definitely sightings during that, but it's more people are active. I think that's why you get more sightings during the spring, summer, and fall though. So
just by the sheer volume of people that are out there in the woods, right?
Exactly. More chances of coming across an encounter. Higher percentage.
Right. Okay. Well, that we're just trying to explore a few avenues of thought here, and sometimes I go back and listen to our shows and try to get some ideas about research and everything. But Will, I would appreciate it if any of that information that you're allowed to get, because I am actually a member of the press, so I don't think it would not be inappropriate for me to see some of that material, and we'll of course be very careful about how we disseminate it. But it just seems to be a little on the strange side. There's almost too much information for this not to have led to stories or for broadcasters and newspapers pull back on it. So we'll see. So anything else going on down there in Charleston that we need to know about for right now?
Nothing major right now, just the same old stuff that goes on down here. We got in about another week or so we have the Flower Town Festival in that Somerville area, so no telling what kind of reports we'll get from there.
Flower Town Festival is huge in Somerville.
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir.
It really is. I guess that's going to be on the weekend of April the 7th, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. I will likely be down there with you, at least for a day or two. I know it's a great festival, and I know I'll get to see you, and maybe we can have some sweet tea, because if I'm not mistaken, Somerville is where sweet tea
is the home of the sweet tea.
supposedly originated. Well, maybe we get lucky, we'll find Bigfoot and he can have some sweet tea with us. I think that would be a capital idea. It'd be a lot of fun. So that's good to know. So I wanted to say thank you very much. And you're our guy in Charleston. So why don't let's see what you can come up with. And here in a while, whatever that means, depending on how the information comes in, we'll have you back on here, and we'll discuss a little bit more about the Charleston conspiracy. Maybe we can get a member of law enforcement, I don't know, or another member of the press, and we can just see what we find out. So does that sound good, Will?
That sounds good to me.
All right, well, look, thank you very much. Now, I don't know what your schedule is. You may have to go on back to work, but Matt and I were going to talk a little bit more about conspiracies, because conspiracies seem to abound with, and they get centered around Bigfoot a whole lot. Now, one thing that we keep hearing people mention is that Bigfoot is frequently seen in the proximity of UFO sightings. Right, Matt?
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of reports around the UFO and Bigfoot sightings.
And that's why I'm very curious, because Myrtle Beach, with this large number of UFOs, I'm surprised we haven't seen. I've heard of 2 reports of Bigfoot basically walking across Highway 17 toward Pawleys Island, and that's getting toward the Francis Marion National Forest. And now, Will, real quickly, what is the National Forest south of Charleston? Is that still Francis Marion?
Yes, it is the Francis Marion. Mm-hmm.
Right, and it was interesting. I was talking with Robin, who was our guest last week. This was just a conversation we were having, and I mentioned to her about the topic today. And I said, we got Francis Marion National Forest in there, and she said, from what I've heard, that is a very dangerous place when it comes to going in there and not being found again, and potentially in terms of some bad interactions with Bigfoot. She said that's what she has heard, is that it's kind of a tough area, and you got to be very careful of it. Matt, maybe we might want to launch a small party to go out in the Francis Marion National Forest, maybe towards Somerville, and just past Somerville in those woods, and see what we need to do to get permission to do that. But I think once we do a little bit more discussion about this and get a little more information, I think a trip down there would be worth it. I can tell you that a number of sightings here in South Carolina have come from, believe it or not, just north of Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter. That seems to be where there are a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And they go up to Lynch's River near Lynchburg, a little tiny town. It's barely there. It's got a stoplight and a bank and a gas station, and that's about what Lynchburg is, and maybe a grocery store. But there seem to be sightings up there. And Matt, have you heard of much Bigfoot exploration done down here in the Palmetto State, or at least in the middle toward Charleston? Because I know I haven't.
No, I haven't really. But I do know now in that area with the Air Force, is it a restricted? Is it like the forest? Is it protected? Is it a national forest? I mean, is it private land, or is it actually a government owned?
It is.
I believe it's government owned,
and it is gigantic.
See, that's where a lot of sightings are protected.
Yeah, in there. It's a gigantic area. I remember that I was coming from Charleston, and I was driving to Columbia, and I was going to go through Sumter County because I was just following military property that's fenced in. Is gigantic. And you go for miles and miles and miles and miles. And I just wondered why it's so big. And yes, there's barbed wire at the top of that fence. And that always struck me as curious. In fact, the whole southern part of Sumter County is like that. I don't know why, but it's good. Look, now there was also, and I found out this is true. There's a taxidermist on the road that goes from Sumter on up to Camden, and that he used to have a statue of a Bigfoot that he had created somehow. Sounded a little suspicious to me. I stopped by there and no one was home. I checked in there a little while back, and I might try to do that again. But I thought that was kind of interesting that there was a statue of Bigfoot right behind Shaw Air Force Base. Don't know. But yes, Will, isn't that interesting as a member of the press? That's about
that is very interesting. I didn't know about that. Have to take a trip and go see this.
Well, just come on and meet me up there. Meet me up in Lee County, and I'll give you the full Lizard Man tour. And then Lee County borders right on Sumter County, so we can just go right down there. I'm telling you, it's really scary in those areas. It really is. And the fact we had all those Lizard Man sightings right there in Lee County and Sumter County, and now we're getting all these stories about Bigfoot. I mean, I just don't feel that people are going to be talking about this stuff if they haven't seen it. There's just too many stories in that area, and it all seems to be congregated in Lee County and Sumter County. Don't know, but and we're talking about, for those of you that don't know, Lee and Sumter County are just due west of Columbia, about 45 minutes on Interstate 20. So there's a lot going on out there. If you want to go out there, check it out. We need to, Matt, if you want me to, I'll start doing some investigation and see what we would need to do if we can get on any of that property. I don't think we can, but we'll see. But are there any, Matt? Are there any military bases or anything up there in your neck of the woods that are gigantic and seem to be protected or barricaded?
Not right here, but down towards Knoxville and Oak Ridge, where they have the nuclear plant.
Mm-hmm.
They've got huge forests that's owned, and you're not allowed in or out of there. But around those areas, there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings. So, and the national parks, a lot of your sightings around parks. A lot of it, I think, is where they're protected, and the government don't let people build in there because they can't keep them away from us. But if they can keep more people from being around them, then that helps keep the sightings down and so forth.
Yep.
But as we know, the parks are covered.
Exactly. Well, I tell you what, we'll put that on our list of things to do. And I guess I want to say thank you to both of you for being on this episode of Bigfoot and Company. It's been interesting talking with you, Will, getting a little perspective from Charleston. Matt, it's always good to talk with you. Talk a little bit about conspiracies and some areas for adventures that we want to consider as we look about doing more research. I know that I've got to do more research in Lee County and Sumter County because of the Lizard Man stories. Lyle Blackburn has certainly piqued my interest, and we were certainly glad to have him at the first Lizard Man Festival. And I do want to remind everybody, yes, while this is Bigfoot and Company, don't miss the Lizard Man Festival. That is June the 1st. 2019 at the South Carolina Button Museum. And we've also got Revenge of the Geek, Summerville, South Carolina at the Coastal Center. That's coming up on April the 13th. And, of course, the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. That's coming up April the 27th. So lots of great things going on. And so I wanted to say thank you, Matt, first of all, as my co-host. I'm always glad to have you with me. Thank you for asking those good questions. Will, not your real name, but as a member of the press corps in Charleston, we want to thank you, and whatever information that we can get put together and see what kind of a story we could come up with is a good thing. So I guess we'll say thanks. Now, we'll be back at our regularly scheduled time on Monday next week. We had to do this special Wednesday broadcast so that it would fit Will's schedule. And I felt this was important to talk about the Charleston conspiracy since I'd seen him a couple of days ago. And I said, we got to get this one out and let everybody hear about it. So thanks a lot to everybody for joining us on Bigfoot and Company. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.